Good morning, everybody. This is your host, Jordan Tremaine, and welcome to the Perspective Podcast, where we explore new thoughts, connect ideas, and offer perspectives that may change the way you think about a thing or two. And today, we're going to discuss something I like to call good questions. I think it's an interesting thing that as you get older, this has been my experience. Maybe it's your experience, maybe not. But as I have gotten older, I've been put up across situations that have forced me or encouraged heavily for me to reevaluate conventional wisdom or urban myths or old wives' tales, things that I thought were true, but now that I'm in this situation and I really have to look at it, maybe that was just something I just believed because someone told me it when I was 5, and I never validated it. I never thought about it, and it was just like, oh, okay. Thank you, adult, for telling 5-year-old version of me this thing. It is now the truth. And it's interesting to be able to kind of go back through your mind and see, like, did I think this was true for like 20 years, and have I been making a bunch of decisions based on this and haven't validated it myself? Is this true? Where did I learn it? And that kind of whole exercise, I think is interesting. Sometimes it can be very painful if the thing you accepted was not good, and then you have to like reconcile all the like the poo-poo stuff you did because you believe something that wasn't good and you didn't even like check up on to see if it was good or not. But even if that's true, I would say that it's worth it, even if it's tough, even if it forces you to face some hard truths. And if you do it, the sooner you do it, the less poop you got to dig through. Because, you know, like if you do it when you're 20, then maybe you learned it when you're 5, you do it when you're 20, is like 15 years worth of poop you got to dig through. And then if you do it when you're 50, that's like way more years, so it might be like tougher. I think it's worth it. I congratulate people who like I think I've said this in a couple of podcasts, but that do the work, that are introspective, that sit and think about who they are and what they do and how they affect other people and how they want to be and how they want to grow and stuff like that. That stuff is mad difficult. It's super confusing, and this is one of the reasons why it's confusing, because a bunch of stuff in your head other people put in there. And like even accepting that, like a lot of my thoughts aren't mine. They're advertisements or stuff my mom told me or the stuff my pastor scared me with when I was 6, and I just accepted it because I thought God said it. But maybe God didn't say that. Maybe it just was my pastor. And I'm not trying to judge anybody or point the finger or anything, but there's a lot of stuff in our minds that we have accepted, that we think are true, that we think really happened, and then are also distorted by our experience, by our memories, by our perspectives and stuff like that. So shout out to the people doing the work to dig through the horribly conflicting matrix of craziness that is anybody's mind, mine included. Whew. If you came into my mind, I don't think you'd ever come out. It's like it's such a disorganized place that you just get lost forever. Like that David Bowie movie, Labyrinth. It's like that, complete with Muppets and weird David Bowie type characters. Anyways, all that said, I am bringing this up because I went through an exercise with one of these things I was told when I was a little kid, and then I started questioning it in college because my gymnastics teacher, who later became my swim teacher, and I wasn't on a gymnastics team. I was on a swim team, but not in college. I guess she was like, Jordan, you're smart. And she like asked me like philosophical questions. And one day she was like, is there some such thing as a bad question? And I was like, huh. And I was like, my knee-jerk reaction was like, you know, all the teachers in elementary school say, there's no such thing as a bad question. And so I was like, no. But then I was like, hold on, that didn't feel right. Because I felt that inner person, that intuition inside of me, like, you didn't think that through. And I was like, give me a day. And I came back and later we had a little bit of discussion. I think I forgot most of what I said, but the stuff that I did remember, we're going to explain today, or we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about today because you're not really here. You're just listening. But coming from that idea of there's no such thing as a bad question, or all questions are good questions. I don't think that's true. And I think a lot of people, myself included at certain times, say a bunch of non-true craziness, which I would call a lie. That's my definition of a lie, is non-true craziness for today, because I know I like to do definitions on this podcast. People lie a lot because, I mean, they lie for a lot of reasons. I think one of the very compelling reasons to lie is to try and create a world that aligns with what we think is good. And a better way to say that that's more simple, because I get really overly complicated when I'm allowed to just talk into a microphone. People lie because they have good intentions and they want to be in line with those good intentions. They don't want to create an awkward situation. They don't want to hurt someone's feelings. So they spit out a bunch of non-true craziness in this good intention realm of like, I'm trying to help. But I don't think lies ever help. Not even white lies, whatever that means. So I think I did a podcast a while ago about like honesty or something like that. And it was talking about what you should say, because I do think you should always tell the truth, but I don't think it's important to like beat people over the head with the truth, or be rude about the truth, or tell the truth that is not related to the situation at all. Like sometimes you ask somebody something and they say something ultra rude that is true and really not related to what you asked them, but technically was true, and they're like, oh, I'm just being honest. And you're like, okay, but was that useful? So there was a podcast on honesty a while ago or something like that. I'll put it in the description. But I do think there are some things as bad questions. And I think if we are trying to learn and become our best selves so we can be living our best life, it's important to like ask good questions. And I'm not talking about like, there's some times where there's like, you can ask one question and that's a good question, or you can ask another question that's a better question. Like I said in a previous podcast, I think the Chasing Rainbows podcast, I was talking about how like, can I do it is an okay question, but I think a better question is, should I do it? I'm not talking about that, because I think both of those are decent questions, depending on what we're going to talk about later. I'm talking about there actually being bad questions, and it was like, don't ask those questions, because they're bad. Like that. But we'll get into it in a little bit. I don't want you to get scared. I think this is something we can all do. Very practical. I don't think you have to do it, because I'm not, the king of the castle. You don't have to listen to me. These are just some thoughts I have. But yeah, I do think that that people ask a lot of bad questions, and it's very frustrating. So I would say number one, in terms of bad questions, because I think if you can define bad questions, it's kind of like a reverse engineer way to let you know what good questions are. So I think the number one bad question you can ask is a question that you don't want to know the answer to. Like, if you ask a question and you don't care about the answer, why did you ask that question? And there's certain cases where what I'm going to talk about doesn't apply, where you can ask like rhetorical questions or leading questions. Like you ask people stuff to get their mind thinking and whatever. Even though it ends with a question mark, I wouldn't call those questions. I would like call that teaching or leading or something like that. What I'm talking about right now in terms of this podcast is asking questions like you are trying to get information. And I feel sometimes people ask questions and give other people the impression that they're curious and they want information, but they don't. They're just asking the question maybe to be polite or to give you the impression that they care or something like that. I say don't do that. That's lying to people, I would say. It's like trying to create this situation where you're looking all inquisitive or whatever is going on. But like only ask questions that you want the answer to. Or you're curious, like you're intrigued by the possibility of an answer. And in that, I would say, like, do you care to know the answer? If you don't care about the answer, don't ask the question. It's, in my opinion, impolite to ask the question you don't care about. It's more polite to shut your mouth and not do it. Like, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all, which I have a lot of reservations about since I did that podcast on nice versus good and found out the definition of nice. But, like, yeah, if you don't care, don't ask. I'm gonna move on from that. And then to that, even if you care, or you're intrigued, or you're curious about what the answer is, I would say there's this other sub layer of, do you want to know the answer, to, are you willing to listen to an answer that you don't like? Because you're asking someone else a question, then you're saying, hey, Broham, I am kind of hiring you or enlisting you to help me with this conundrum, this question, and I want to know what you think. Because you're asking a particular person, or maybe you're asking Google. I don't know who you're asking. But you're asking a particular person, and I would say it's a bad question if you're only accepting certain types of answers. If you ask somebody, you're asking them for help, and they're doing you a favor. They're doing work for you by thinking and responding or telling you something they've already thought about. So respect them enough to listen to them and maybe not say like, yes, that's the right answer. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to accept that. But to listen and try to grasp what they're telling you, because they're doing you a favor by responding to your question. Care about the answer, and then also care enough about the other person to listen to their answer, even if it's horrendous. Listen to it because you asked for it. They wouldn't have given it to you if you didn't ask for it, so take the gift. I'm not saying you have to cherish the gift once you have it and put it on your mantelpiece and show all your guests every time they come, but if I ask for a question, if I ask somebody a question and they give me an answer and I don't like it, I'm not going to cut them off. I'm not going to call them stupid to their face. It might start a conversation or something like that, but I'm going to listen to them because I asked. So I think the first thing that I think makes a bad question is people not wanting to know the answer, and that comes in this I don't want to know the answer because I don't really care, so I'm asking this question for some reason other than I want to know the answer. And then also a little bit deeper than that, be willing to listen or hear out or humor any response. And I know, if you ask somebody a question and it triggers them and they try to stab you, don't get stabbed. But if they're giving you a response that's not an immediate danger to you, your health, or the health of others, hear them out. And I think often new information can make us uncomfortable or create awkward situations due to a revelation. So sometimes I'm mad and there's some situation going on and I ask a question and the person answering the question kind of unravels the situation in a way that embarrasses me, and it turns my anger into embarrassment, and then I want to shut them down because they're embarrassing me by exposing truth or something like that. You asked for it. So I'm not saying you have to be oh my gosh, I'm so wrong, everybody look at me, I'm terribly wrong. But listen to them and don't cut them off just because they make you uncomfortable. Finding truth is not an activity that naturally exists in the comfort zone. If you're asking questions, you're stepping out of the comfort zone. So be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to feel awkward. It's okay. Learning can be incredibly awkward. But one of the things I love about awkward or embarrassing situations is, I don't know if this has been your experience or if you've noticed this, when I'm embarrassed, it's so easy to learn stuff and never forget it. Like we never forget the stuff we're embarrassed about. It's like burned into our heads. It's like this small window of time, like during the embarrassment, where like all the learning is super clear, it gets into my head and it gets burned in. So whatever I learned while I'm being embarrassed, it's like I don't got to study it over again. If you test me on it, I'll tell you. And I'll be like, I never forget that one time that this and this and this happened. Blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I think embarrassment is an excellent learning tool. So even though it sucks and I don't like being embarrassed, I'd say you might be able to like life hack and take advantage of it. Ask yourself a question, get embarrassed, learn, humble yourself. Don't forget, you never need the lesson again. Boom. Anyways, and kind of a self-reflective thing I thought that was interesting is there was a guy, Hippocrates. I think he was like a philosopher dude from the age where you had names like Hippocrates, so I'm guessing he's Greek. I think he's a dude that made the Hippocratic Oath, and that's like the thing the doctor people say. It's like when they become doctors and they're like, oh, I promise I'm gonna be helpful and not be a spiteful guy that kills people. And Hippocrates, he's like a super interesting guy if you ever check him out. Especially because like of the Hippocratic Oath and then the kind of medicine he believed in. But it was like kind of the medicine of the time, so I can't judge him too much. But it's like kind of ironic if you look at the history in its totality. But anyways, he said something that I think we can ask ourselves, and it helps us with this first thing I'm bringing up about good questions and caring about the answer. And Hippocrates said, before you heal a man, ask him if he is willing to give up what made him sick in the first place. And so I think that's really important for doctors. And it's really important for people. If people have problems, don't solve their problems. Don't even try to solve their problems if they don't ask you for help. You can offer. You can be like, yo, you need some help? But if they don't ask for your help or give you confirmation they need help, don't help them. Maybe they like their problems. Lots of people like being addicted to certain things. Lots of people find comfort in having problems. And I'm not saying that's good, but I don't know, in my opinion, like, people have the right to make their own choices. But what I'm talking about right now is using this as a self-reflective thing, where before you heal yourself, before you look for truth in yourself, before you try to understand yourself, ask yourself if you're willing to let that happen. Ask yourself if you're willing to be uncomfortable with a truth you don't like. Ask yourself if you're willing to accept information that didn't come from you. So that's some stuff on, do you want to know the answer? And I would say the other thing that I think is really important about getting towards good questions, this is the other thing that makes a question bad. I say, do not ask this type of question. And I know this is tempting. This one is like, ooh, it makes me want to do it. I want to do this all the time. I say, don't do this, because it's I think it's disrespectful to the other person. Like at the heart of it, when you look at it like outside of the situation, objectively at the idea of it, I think this is disrespectful. But don't ask someone a question that you didn't try to answer first yourself. I know sometimes we have a reflex, or I'll ask somebody a question because they're explaining something to me and I'm trying to make sure I understand their explanation. But like, if you have any ability to, on your own, think and ponder and come up with an answer, or on your own search into Google and find an answer, or on your own read a book, or on your own go do something, do that first. Don't outsource your curiosity to other people, unless you pay them. I think that's okay if you pay them. But don't just be like, oh, I want to know this thing, but it's beneath me to figure it out myself. It's too much effort. It's too hard. You over there, you do it for me. Like, that's disrespectful, because you're saying, like, my time and my effort, it's like it's not worth it for me to do it. It's beneath me, but you do it for me. And then you get back to me with it. And That's totally okay if like you pay them and they're your employee. That's kind of their job. But like for your friends and your family and your spouse and stuff like that, try to figure stuff out yourself. If you're on a team and you have a project to do, don't be like just waddling over to this other person all the time asking them for help if you didn't try to solve it yourself. And yeah, I know I'm kind of being like negative and like shame fingering some people, but I've found that on the positive side of this, if you try and solve stuff and you fail, which is okay, failure is okay. Failure, if you made a genuine effort and you tried and you failed, that's cool. If you fail because you lazy or you fail because you was doing wrong, like you knew the thing to do and you didn't do that and that's why you failed, like, okay, I'm not talking about that failure. The good failure, where you try and it doesn't work out, it's not fun and you don't get what you want maybe, but it's not a bad thing. You learn a lot and you grow. If you do that and then you go to somebody and you say, hey Jordan, I wanted to ask you this question. So I'm struggling with this, but I tried this, it didn't work. I tried that, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. And so I'm stumped. Do you have any suggestions for me? Could you help me? Could you point me in the right direction? Like, that's dope. The other person is like, this guy really cares about you. You've proved that you care about the question. So you've already scratched out that first thing I was mad about. And then the other person says like, oh, he's put effort into this, or he or she they have put effort into this. And so people want to help you more when they see you're trying. Like Chris Rock said, like he noticed when he was like broke, if he was standing next to his car that wasn't working, nobody would help him. But if he was pushing his car, people would stop their car and get out and help him push. And it's like, are you pushing your car? Are you trying to figure this out? Or are you just trying to outsource the burden of figuring it out to somebody else? Because that's just like passing the buck. And that's like not fun and rude, in my opinion. A lot of this podcast is my opinions. That's like peppered over the ideas I have. So, yeah, if you haven't figured that out already, I'm going to continue to do that. Anyways, I think a good analogy of this, or story, whatever you want to call it, in my mind, is office hours. If y'all have ever been in a class, normally in college, where there's like office hours, so you like learn in the classroom, and then the professor sits in this cave somewhere in the university called their office, and you can like go visit them at certain special times. That's office hours, and you like visit them to harass them with questions and stuff like that. I used to go to office hours all the time because all I did in college was like study and read books and stuff like that. I know, like, I failed at college. I didn't do the right thing. But I remember I would be like in line. Maybe I wasn't the first person to show up to office hours, and a lot of times, like during final season, like you showed up early to try to get your spot, like it was Black Friday or something like that, to make sure that you got help. I remember I could hear people in the office in front of me if I wasn't the first person in line. And I knew it was good when they came up and they were like, yeah, chapter 6, problem number 16, I tried it. I tried it 3 times. Here's the pieces of paper I tried them on. And I keep getting the wrong answer when I look in the back in the textbook. Yo, can you look at these problems and help me out with what I'm doing wrong? I think I'm missing something in like the mass transfer equation. And then the professor is like, oh, cool. Like, here's an actual laid out clear problem. Let me help you with it, blah, 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 blah. And I loved those people because they were in and out of the office maybe in like 10 minutes. And then there was those other people that came in, and then the professor's like, yo, what can I help you with? And they go like, everything. And you're like, what do you mean? And it's like, I don't get anything. This is so hard, and I'm so stressed out that finals are gonna come. And it's like, I understand you're stressed out. I understand, like, there's pressure and stuff. But, like, you don't know what your question is. Like, you don't know what you need help with. You didn't try anything. And I used to, like, love my professors that was like, try something and then come back. Those professors were my favorite. But then there'd be these other professors that would start this, like, therapy session with their, like, try to calm down the student who didn't do any work and then tried to offload the work onto the teacher who already spent a bunch of class time teaching them and coming up with homework assignments and all this stuff and giving them study guides. So they gave them all this support anyways. But I would say don't be that second student. Don't go up to people and say, like, I didn't try anything and this stressed me out and so I didn't do anything and I want you to walk me through it. Hold my hand and walk me through this whole process. Like, unless you're paying those people. And I know that was kind of a bad example for that caveat because you, like, kind of pay your professors. But I'm going to ignore that and say that if you do your diligence, even if you fail, it helps you define the question better, it helps you define your inadequacies better, and it really helps the other person because they don't have to go through those things. They say, oh, you tried that? Okay, so that's not going to work. Okay, you tried that? Okay, that's not going to work. Oh, I can see you're trying these different things. Maybe you're heading in this direction. Maybe you should head in this other direction. So, like, if you're asking questions, try to, and it doesn't always have to be like these hard chapter 18, problem 15 questions where you're all in your desk studying and all this stuff. It could just be little questions like I don't know, what time does Target open? Like, why are you gonna ask me that if you have a smartphone in your pocket? There's certain questions that you need to ask me that you can't figure out yourself, like what's my favorite color? Yeah, there's certain stuff like that. But if you have a way to try and attempt to answer the question, then try and attempt to answer the question yourself. I know that's no fun, and I know it treads dangerously close into the waters of maturity, like real close. You might even get wet, like you were sitting in one of the front rows at SeaWorld when one of those captured killer whales like splashes. You might get wet with a little bit of maturity. And that's, I can tell you from experience, it's no fun to initially get wet. It's like when it's early in the morning, and because I used to be on a swim team, and you have to get in the water, but the water's cold and you're dry, and you're like, ugh. But once you get in the water, then you can like swim around and have fun times and stuff. But I know trying to get in and you're trying to like get in slow and you put your toe in, you're like, oh, that's cold. Like that whole experience and that the getting in the water stuff is not fun. But I would say that it has benefits if you can get into the water and then practice and do all that kind of stuff. But if you like put your toe in or you put your leg in and take it out and then your leg's all cold but you never jump in the water, then you're going to be like, oh, that was bad. But that was just you not following through. So back onto the subject for today. And I know when I first started this podcast thing, I was like, I'm going to do 20-minute episodes because I'm going to explain one idea at a time. And I don't want to give people too much because it's only one idea at a time. I know I said that to myself, and I may have said it out loud in one of the previous podcasts. And now a lot of these podcasts are turning into 30-minute podcasts. And then I'm probably going to say now I'm going to keep them at 30 minutes. And then, 50 episodes later, they'll be at 45 minutes, whatever. I'm trying to explain one concept at a time, and that's the new standard metric, in case you guys are mad at me for these slowly creeping into longer podcasts. But I say there are some such things as bad questions, and bad questions are questions that you don't want the answer to. Like if I'm asking the question I don't want the answer to, I think that's a bad question. I think if I don't care about the answer, if I'm just asking to be polite or something, that's a bad question. If I'm not willing to listen to the response, like if I'm only willing to listen to responses that agree with my worldview, that's a bad question. Don't ask questions that you want tailored answers for. Like, come on, man. You're just asking for an argument. Don't please not do that. What? That was double like that. Please do not do that. That was a better way to say that. And then lastly, like, did you make any effort? Did you make even the slightest, tiny, microscopic, atomic-sized effort to answer this question yourself, or think about it, or ponder it, or put any critical thinking, mental energy into it yourself? And then I think it's also really helpful, if you did that, to explain the effort that you went through to the person you're asking the question to. Often it will make them more receptive to helping you, and it might make the conversation deeper because it explains some of your experience. So now, on top of asking a question, you're conversing about experiences. You're sharing life with each other. So that's always good. But yeah, that was a lot. And I know this is one of my pet peeves. I know at my job, a lot of people ask me bad questions, specifically questions that they could have definitely answered themselves, or questions that I'm not the person to ask. So those always can make me think of this concept. But I hope you ask good questions. I hope this helps you ask better questions, and I hope it leads you to better places. I think when we ask good questions, we can get good answers. When we ask bad questions, we can create frustration, we can create animosity, and we might end up getting bad answers. So, yeah, this is to help out, hopefully, and give a little insight into something I think is funny when they say, "Oh, there's no such thing as a bad question." I say to that, poppycock, there is some such thing as a bad question. Anyways, this has been Jordan Tremaine with the Perspective Podcast. I hope this turns into a good conversation for you down the road, and I hope you have a good day, and if not a good day, then I hope your day was real. Anyways, talk to you guys later.